All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah. We are now officially live. It does take a moment or two for it to roll on our social media accounts, but I'm super, super excited to have you. Welcome to the show, my dear brother, Surviving the Wilderness with Tyson and Amir. I'm
Right on. It's good to be here, and I'm out here in the wilderness right now for sure. Like the folks who gonna be watching, you gonna see your boy making some moves in the wilderness.
We are going to see you live on the move. So, alhamdulillah, like I said, we're waiting for our family to come on in. So, as our family comes in, please share, we're streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitter Live. So, as you guys come in, give your salams. Let us know that you're here. Let us know that you are connected with us, alhamdulillah. So this is season 7 of the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. I'm your girl. I'm your host of the Dope Muslim Woman, Sabria Mills. We are in the podcast season, The Journey Back Home. This is episode 3. And we've been navigating for several years in the trenches for our people collectively working on our issues. As a reminder, this is an issues-based podcast. So we tend to talk about our issues openly and freely, but with the intention to collectively come together to heal and to be solution based. But we unpack everything. We look at things raw and ugly and we bring it to the table. So we are really excited because this season is really about our journey back home and really navigating against imperialistic, colonial, oppressive narratives that have been against us for a really long time. They are really what has caused a lot of these inner oppressors that we have to deal with and navigate in these struggles that we deal with collectively as a people. So we know the wider picture. We know what's happening around the world. We know what's happening right here at home. And so we look at and we unpack issue by issue. But alhamdulillah, we have the right person here on the podcast. And I want to make sure, alaikum salam, everybody. I want to make sure that I introduce him proper because I've known of this brother for, I don't know if it's been like 15 or 20 years, but I've known of his work and his artistry. And so I'm really excited to have him on the show. It's a huge honor for me. But alhamdulillah, brother Tyson Amir, he's an author, a musician, an educator, a community organizer, and a freedom fighter. He was born and raised in the Bay Area. His first book, Black Boy Poems, was nominated by the Librarians of America for the In the Margins Social Justice Award, making it a librarian recommended text for high school students. Tyson is the founder and director of the Black Literary Collective and Freedom Soul Media Education Initiatives, a consultant firm for revolutionary education. This organization has also worked with over 150 schools, delivered more than 400 programs, and served more than 35,000 students through its groundbreaking revolutionary programming, PDs and workshops, curriculum and culture, community and climate building. So I would like to officially welcome Brother Tyson to the show.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. And words on paper are one thing, but I sincerely hope that my actions truly represent everything that was on that paper and more.
Absolutely. Alhamdulillah. Well, it's really good to have you here. I wanted to jump right into it. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's good to see you guys here. Thank you for dropping the love. Make sure you share this podcast. As you guys know, we are being horribly shadow banned on Facebook. I mentioned today on my live, Brother Tyson, that the Dope Muslim Woman podcast receives all kinds of threats on a daily basis by I don't know who, I guess right-wing folks or whatever, but they've been kind of on us pretty heavy after a couple of political lives that we did. So alhamdulillah, we know the suppression that's happening, so we need you guys' help by just sharing the podcast, and we appreciate that. But I wanted to jump right into the conversation. So I wanted to start from a really real place. So I remember, my brother, where you were an artist. You were doing hip-hop.
I was.
I mean, maybe you still are. I don't know if that's that's going to be my question, because I remember you performing. I think I came to a couple of your live performances many, many moons ago. And then I recall your transition into writing the book Black Boy Poems. I think you came, one of your stops on your tour was Atlanta. I came out to that. So my question, it's interesting, Brother Tyson, because when I posted your flyer, a lot of like our community members was like, man, I haven't heard from Tyson in so long. Where have you been at? So I guess my question to you first and foremost is where you been at. I mean, we read your bio, but like we used to see you heavy in community, and then in black Muslim communities, right? And then we saw you as a hip hop artist, and now it's like a whole transformation. So can you break that down for us a little bit and update us? What's where you been at?
Dang, we ain't gonna have no time to talk about anything else if that's the first question we starting with. But for real, all right. So off top, the framing I think is really important. And that framing for me is this. Okay. W.E.B. Du Bois, he talked about double consciousness, and we folks will bring that up in a lot of different conversations. It's like how we see ourselves as Black folks, but then also being aware of the white gaze on us. So being conscious of both of those things. As an artist, there's a strange type of multi-consciousness that comes with that too, because I'm creative and I'm gifted, fam. I'm still barred up. Like, don't make the mistake. Like, if anybody thinks that it's still not a game when it comes to me hopping on a track and killing a mic, I'm still just as venomous with the bars as ever, if not more so. But for me, right, like my foundation really comes from a community that was focused on the freedom and the liberation of our people. Like that's the DNA of who I am, the pedigree that I come from. No doubt about that. So it was never about being an artist. That was never the goal. The goal was always, how can I use what I have to forward the struggle for fighting for the freedom and liberation of our people? I knew that I had a gift and a talent for words and killing mics and killing beats. So I was like, well, let me use that as one pathway to elevate more of this, bring more people into the discussion, into the conversation. But when I began to see how limited that was, and not just me as an individual, the community of brothers that I was rocking with, they still fam. We still do a whole bunch of stuff together. You know what I'm saying? But like we had a strategic understanding of how we wanted to approach our music and our creativity. And I'll give that information away. It's not like I'm hiding anything. We thought that by bringing super high quality musical and lyrical content that merged political and cultural Black realities with Islamic realities, and brought that to the Muslim community, that we would be able to extract dollars, especially from like the immigrant aspect of the Muslim community, because they got bread, you feel me? We'd be able to extract those dollars and then use that to forward more of our own programming and our campaigns. It became very obvious after a few years that the racism that, and I say that without flinching, the racism that exists in a lot of aspects of the quote unquote mainstream Muslim culture here in the United States prevented that from ever happening. You know what I'm saying? And so it was like, all right, we wasn't just making music for that community per se. We were making music for anybody who was willing to listen to our artistic content. But it was like, that strategy ain't gonna work, fam. We need to do something else. And again, because of the foundation that I come up from, the political and revolutionary foundation, going back to one of our revolutionary forefathers, El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X, one of the things that he's known for, like a rough approximation of it, is by any means necessary. We try the first thing. If that don't work, we try something else. If that don't work, we try something else. So we tried it. It didn't work. We moved on to something else. So it don't mean that I'm still not creative or I'm gifted, but the umbrella is, what can I do to fight for the freedom and the liberation of my people? Writing these raps is cool, but that ain't gonna get us all the way there. You feel me? So we just kept pushing, and it made sense for it to evolve, and that's what it's done, because that's the tradition that we stand on. We stand on a tradition of people who have constantly evolved to do what they can in their day and time to forward that agenda. And that's where I'm at with it. And that's why some people feel like they ain't seen me. Your boy ain't stopped. I've been pushing and pushing the line. It's just that, and this is no judgment to anybody who might be watching this, because I don't know what y'all been doing. Y'all may have been handling your business too, and I respect that. But I've been pushing the line in places where folks that come from certain aspects of this
Yeah.
religious practice in these communities, they ain't going there. You feel me? Because they
Okay.
don't
So
have that same understanding. My bad. I'm a
no,
pause.
no, no. I because I want to ask about this because this is really interesting to me. So I, I hear what you're saying, and I want to make it plain. So are you saying that you were very intentional about making conscious art to help to educate your people or our people, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Off top, and it's not conscious art. Just that's the art that I make
Okay.
because of the foundation that I stand on.
Okay. And then you immediately you saw that there were barriers and racism that came within the Muslim community.
Oh, for sure. You know what I'm saying? Like we hit up the if some folks know my background and like you talked about 20 years, I'm like, dang, I mean that's real though. You know what I'm saying? We was
About
rocking
that
early
time.
2000s, you feel me? And like really getting it in. Some folks may have seen us at these big conventions and we performed in multiple communities all throughout the country and outside of the country. But talking about here in the United States, there's only so far that we was able to go with that. And like I said, like we had great content, great and like I ain't tripping off that. Like that's what it was. But our understanding, or at least our hope, the hypothesis was we'd be able to bring this content to the communities and extract dollars that we would be able to use in order to continue to build our programming and expand our impact. We got some money out of it, but it wasn't what it was. And those barriers were very real and very clear. And then it also became clear that, oh, these folks ain't our allies.
Hmm.
Nah, this ain't who we need to be standing next to and who we need to be rocking with. So, okay, I'm over here and I'm pushing, and we gonna do what we need to do elsewhere because it needs to get done by any means necessary. We thought that this would be a good means to accomplish it, or at least to advance it. It wasn't. Cool. We elsewhere.
Okay, so I hear exactly what you're saying. So then you wrote Black Boy Poems, and now, like that has developed into a curriculum. So now your work has really transformed into educating thousands and thousands of children.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same work. So because your folks, your people, the folks who are listening, I would consider them family and people as well. You get it. What's in Black Boy Poems is the same thing that was in each one of my albums. Like some of the material that's actually on some of my albums is in
Yeah,
Black Boy Poems.
yeah,
It's just I was able to put it into a different format. Again, thinking strategically. I knew that for some people, the way that I would be perceived as an artist when I'm so much more than an artist, but how they perceive, oh, you do raps. Oh, you got music videos, whatever that is. I mean, that's for them, right? But anyway, the way that I might be perceived because of that, certain doors open, certain doors close. So I'm like, the same stuff that's in these albums that I've been spitting for how many ever years, I'm gonna take that and I'm just gonna put it on a page. I'm gonna put a cover on it. I'm gonna put an ISBN on that mug and I'm gonna give it to you. And now you're gonna be like, oh, this he's a great author and whatever, fam. Like that, whatever works for you, we gonna do that. So yeah, I published the book Black Boy Poems, and again, the same elements, the same understanding that was in the music is in the book. The book is a great format because it does allow me to expand more on the thoughts, the ideas, the history, the critical analysis, and what somebody can clearly see. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they don't. They might think, oh, because I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, and all this type of stuff a couple of different times that I'm not an intelligent person, but I am. I have a very strong mind. I have very strong analysis. I know who I am. I know what I stand on. So I took that
mm,
same information, put it in the book. The long format allows me to explain more of what is behind those lyrics and behind those verses or behind those poems and go deeper into historical analysis, revolutionary analysis, and critique and break that stuff down and give it to the people because that's the people need it. And
yeah,
then once I put the book together, I knew this is a valuable teaching tool. I'm going to create a curriculum for it as well. So that's where the Black Boy Poems curriculum came from. And that's a curriculum that's being taught in multiple schools throughout the state of California and beyond because your boy, I'm from the West Coast, no doubt about it. I'm here in the Bay right now. So, I mean, that's just part of the soil that made me. So the book, the curriculum, and I knew I was going to be able to get it into the schools. It would be different pulling up to the school like, hey, you know what I'm saying, play the new album, or go to SoundCloud or Spotify and download the new album and teach the kids off that. They'd be like, man, what is that? Here's the book. Here's the curriculum. Do the same thing. It's the same content. It's just in a different format that people value differently. I'm by any means necessary. We gonna get it however we need to get it.
So
So
let's talk about, so people can understand what you're, just people who aren't familiar. When you're talking about the information being disseminated to the people, and especially to our young people, we know the way that this educational system has been structured. It's been structured around really like kind of colonized thought. It's very intentional. I've been in education for a really long time, and I
mhm.
see just the corruption in the system. Really, they're really sort of promoting this idea of just slaves that are working in a factory. That's the conditioning, and it's not real education happening. So, and I had a brother on not long ago, Brother Tiba Jones. I'm not sure if you know him, but he runs the Save Institute in
Right
Atlanta.
on for Atiba. Yep.
Yeah, Tiba. And he was also speaking about how that our this Western educational system does not work for our Black boys in particular.
And never will.
So, yeah, so I wanted to just kind of help us understand, when you say give it to the people, you're talking about challenging what exactly?
It ain't even about challenging. You know what I'm saying? It's just about, let's be realistic when it comes to who we are and where we are.
Mm-hmm.
So the United States of America is an imperial, colonial, white supremacist, racist project that has spread throughout the entire planet. And as a result of it spreading throughout the entire planet, has nearly killed off the planet. Global warming is a reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can, people want to debate and all that stuff, the way that racism has been imported, and it's not just a byproduct of the United States of America. Great Britain, we can talk about all these Western European countries that are also responsible for the imperialism and the colonization that we see. And then we can even get into the reason why we have the situation with our Palestinian brothers and sisters in Gaza and the West Bank. All of that is an outgrowth of that same reality. So if we're being real about where we are and who we are in the institutions that we've been forced to rely on, unless we're doing something outside of that, which our people have been doing for centuries as well, but they want to make it seem as if we haven't. I mean, you know, the the communities that many of us are born out of, who come from like a Black Muslim experience, those were indigenous communities that were alternative to these institutions. We created them for ourselves, and as a result, we benefited greatly from those communities.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're relying on their system, Malcolm spoke to it, so many other folks from our community have spoken to it. I'll quote George Jackson. So George Jackson, who was the field marshal of the Black Panther Party, was a political prisoner. He said, I now know that the most damaging thing a people in a colonial situation can do is to allow their children to attend any educational facility organized by the dominant enemy culture. That's what he said. And he was right by saying that. They ain't gonna teach you. They ain't gonna teach you the truth of who we are. You feel me? Especially when they profited off of fabricating lies about who we are.
Right.
And not only that, they profited off of the exploitation and the oppression of who we are. And you can't do that to a people if they know who they are and they stand up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what these systems of education are based on. And they practice that into the present moment. So Black Boy Poems is necessary. The Black Boy Poems curriculum is necessary. The other stuff that we do through my education consultancy firm is necessary. And I ain't on here just trying to, I don't want people to take this like I'm bragging that I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this only because I stand on a tradition that preceded me. You had the universities of Islam, you had the Black Panther Party schools, you had schools that were impacted by the legacy of Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, which is now known as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. I mean, we have such a rich tradition of Black education and Black revolutionary institutions, but they ain't gonna teach us that in their schools. You know what I'm saying? So all I'm doing is carrying on the tradition that was before me. And again, right, the way that some people might see me because of the way that we strategically try to interact with the mainstream uh, Muslim community here in the United States by using our artistic talents and our creative abilities. Some folks might be like, "Oh, dude, oh, that's the rapper." Fam, I ain't. I'm so much more than that, and I know that because
It's
of the
what people say.
community that I come from. You feel
Hmm.
me? So all
Hmm.
I'm doing is carrying on the tradition. We by any means necessary. That's what we do. Whether it's through bars and rhymes, it's building schools, writing books. We gonna fight for the freedom and the liberation of our people, and I know that, and I've never. I mean, Allah is gonna be the judge on that, but I feel that since the time that I've been mature and aware of who I am as a person and what my responsibility is, I've never deviated from that mission that I know has been bestowed upon me.
Yeah, subhanallah. I wanted to ask about that because when I had you on this when you were coming on this podcast, I'm gonna be honest with you. I had, like I was trying to really figure out, like, how to extract the gold that you do and really make it relevant to what some of our day-to-day experiences are. And one of the things that I really thought of in this whole experience is being principled and standing on your principles. And I
Definitely.
recall, and just a little tangent, I had asked Brother Tyson I made a mistake. I don't know, and asked Brother Tyson, can you perform on the Dope Muslim Woman
Uh-huh.
podcast? And you stood on your principles that wasn't what you do anymore necessarily, or that's not the box that you're in anymore per se.
Mm-hmm.
And that really made me thoughtful because as a Black woman who, mashallah, is educated in the secular realm, as well as Islamically, and grew up in communities, and also is out here doing this work, I often find myself really boxed in, and even either having to compromise on who I am, my foundations of the background of where I come from. My parents grew up in that same time. My father was a Vietnam vet. He went through that time, the Black Panther Party, etc. And like these are principles that we stand on. And it feels like in order to be accepted by mainstream, I have felt like, I'm just going to speak for myself, to be accepted by mainstream Muslim communities, there was a certain look, there was a certain way I was supposed to speak, a certain way, like there was a certain compromise of that foundation that was expected of me. And I would say still is expected of me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's been really, really hard
Mm-hmm.
because I love my community and I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm rocking for it. But like this is who I am. I only know how to be who who we are. Like
Yep.
that's all I know how to stand on. But it seems like it's not Muslim enough. I've often
Mm-hmm.
been accused of not being Muslim enough.
Yeah.
I wanted to speak to that a little bit. I know like it seems like you don't compromise at all.
No, fam, no. What? For who? Why? Who are you? You know what I'm saying? And I ain't talking about you as Sabria, but like
I know I
who
understand.
who are you? For real. And and not only that, like, I've studied, and I appreciate you. Thank you. I've studied in quote unquote traditional Islamic spaces, and I've just studied. You feel me? I've learned multiple things and continue to learn multiple things. Islam as a tradition is only possible when it's applied to a context. You can't you can't do Islam as a theoretical or hypothetical exercise. It's not. The Quran is a text, but not a text in the sense of in the Arabic a kitab, as in a book with a mushaf and pages, but it's a it's a principle way of understanding the world. It has knowledge and information for you, but where is the text supposed to be embodied? In the actual body of a person. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And so that person is living in a time, in a place, a cultural context, a social and political reality. That's where it's articulated. So, in the context of where we are, in a country that refers to itself as the United States of America, that's on stolen land, as I said before, and I don't have to keep repeating it, this imperial, colonial, white supremacist, racist project, things have to be done a specific way in this context in order for people to survive. And then for us as people who are dealing with a lot of the extreme violence of this reality for us to be able to survive and then to change the conditions that exist around us.
Yeah.
So who are you coming from wherever you coming from to be on some you ain't this enough or you ain't that enough? Fam, you don't know me. And you certainly don't understand the history and the context that we stand on. So move your little misinformed or ignorant self in the community that you represent out of the way and
Mm.
allow the people who do understand where we are and what needs to be done to take the lead. But the problem is because of proximity to, and I'm going to give like a rough approximation of an answer and or explanation to this. But one of the problems that at least I see is the proximity to whiteness and then also the privilege that some people want to imbue themselves with because they have a little bit more financial resources and wealth. They think that because they have those things, that gives them some credential that they should be more in a position of leadership. And then also the misappropriation of understanding of like whatever Islamic authenticity is, the more Arab you're supposed to be or closer to some quote unquote authentic Muslim culture that you have and that identity, that's supposed to make you better at being able to determine what's best in a place and a time in a context that you don't understand. Fam, miss me with all of that. And so I see it, I recognize it for what it is. I don't even need to put myself in that space. And what I really begin to realize, so you know what I'm saying, like 09, 2010, this is when you start seeing some stuff like and this ain't me being pro this thing, but the reality, there's just the historical footnote of it. You know, social media, hashtags, Black Lives Matter, and that type of stuff popping off, right?
Yep.
So as we move deeper into that, and this is a country where Black people have been under attack since our day one. You feel me?
Absolutely.
Where where is the mainstream U.S. Muslim response to standing up to protect Black people, regardless of what their religious affiliation is? Where is that at? And it just became clear, like, oh, y'all ain't showing up. Y'all really ain't gonna come out here, and our people are literally dying in the streets, and y'all ain't finna pull up. But then you want to make a little bit of noise when somebody who got Muhammad in their last name or Kareem in their name gets visited by some of this police brutality, was killed by. Oh, so you only pull up. Oh, okay. I see. I see. It became real clear. And then part of my understanding was certain aspects of, again, I'm going to say it, the mainstream US Muslim population were harmful to the existence of Black folks because y'all want to be temporary allies or stand with some facade of solidarity, but you ain't really here. And then, you know what I'm saying, some of the cats actually want to tap in and support some of these other initiatives and policies and political folk who are clear enemies to our community. Oh, shoot. All right, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. I see it. You expose yourself for who you are. That's why I'm over here doing what I need to do
So,
because I know the mission that I'm on.
right. And I hear you keep saying, I'm over here doing what I'm doing. Are you saying that like you distance yourself from community when you keep saying, so that's why I'm over here doing what I'm doing? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, for sure. That's why cats ain't really seeing me. And it ain't,
Okay.
it's, and that ain't everywhere. Some of it is a geographic reality. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like when the book came out, I pulled up to the A. I was out there with my folks. You feel me?
I
I
saw
been,
it.
I was in Philly. I was with the homies in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Like I got people in a lot of different parts of the country who I love and I respect. And we stay tapped in. But when it comes to, as I keep describing it, this mainstream US thing. So
I understand what
people seeing you at certain conventions and
you
at other events. And then, right, like I think my positionality in the way that I show it because I know who I am and I know the work that I'm supposed to be doing and I'm busy doing that work. I think that makes some of those organizations and institutions want to distance themselves from me as well because I'm a constant reminder of what you're not doing and what you should be doing. And I'll tell you directly to your face that. and I have no problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it is what it is. So
Okay.
again, speaking to it in that way, there are very specific institutions and organizations, and sometimes individuals are institutions and organizations that are helping to set the pace or the rhythm of what this whatever we're describing. But I keep referring to it as the mainstream US Muslim community, which is made up of a lot of different things and a lot of different parts. But it has a specific presence here in the United States. That thing, the way that it looks right now, is antithetical to Black freedom and Black liberation. And not only that, dismantling this racist, imperial, colonial, political, social apparatus that is destroying the world. And
Mm,
so, if
mm.
that's how you see yourself and that's how your faith informs you to be in this place during this time, that's cool. Do you? I'm going to be over here doing this, which is what I've been doing.
I got you. So what I appreciate that. I really do. And I think a lot of us appreciate, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I know that that transition to just putting doing real work on the ground, because one of the things I notice, even as we're talking currently about what's happening in Gaza and just the current climate where people are, kind of quote unquote political, or being more, I don't know, aware, is that a lot of times in like sort of mainstream communities, they still wanted to fit a particular frame, right? The Western colonized frame. It's still, even though you're like, I'm fighting against oppression, it's still, you still needed to fit in that frame, because there's a fear. Like I said, people benefit from this system. You benefit off the exploitation of people of color, of Black people. And a lot of times people don't want to see that destroyed, even though they're like, we're standing for this and that. We're standing against oppression, X, Y, and Z. So I totally agree with you. I wanted to ask, though, just to kind of get more practical, because I know you're doing very real work on the ground. What impact have you seen with your curriculum as it relates to young Black boys and girls?
Mm, so much, really. I mean, I don't know where to even begin with that.
Yeah.
So let's start with the book. So the idea for the book came to me in 2015, around April, May of 2015.
Yeah.
And the book is entitled Black Boy Poems because a very famous author from our tradition, an author who has really inspired me in many different ways, Richard Wright, he entitled his autobiography Black Boy. So I was revisiting Richard Wright's work, Black Boy, during early part of 2015. And when I finished it, this was the first time in my life, man, where I was like, I need to write something. And I want to write something on the level of what Richard Wright wrote for his day and time, but for my day and time. He was writing in the early part of the 20th century. I'm writing in the early part of the 21st century. There are things that are the same and there are things that are different. And one of the things that I have, which he didn't have at that time, I got hip hop, I got bars, you feel me? And I've been using that for years. And so I knew that I needed to bring that stuff into my text. So put the book together. I released it on October 15th, 2016. That's important for me, and it should be important for everybody on this call, because October 15th is the birth date of the Black Panther Party. It was founded October 15th, 1966. So on the 50th anniversary of the Black Panther Party, Black Boy Poems comes out. And I'm not saying that it puts it on the level of the party, but it's from that tradition of revolutionary history.
Mm.
Definitely, right? So the book comes out. I got young people. All right, like some people know me for a variety of reasons. I'm from the Bay. If anybody on here is from the Bay, like, you might know me. You might see me in traffic out here doing a whole bunch of different things, right? But if you were with me out here in the Bay Area, you might encounter a moment with me where somebody be like, "Hey, I read your book." You feel me? And we might have a conversation about it, and they be like, "Bro, I don't even like reading books, but I read your book, and it
Right.
put me on." You know what I'm saying? That matters.
It
I
does.
got so many young people, and sometimes people mistake the book and be like, Black Boy Poems, oh, it's just for Black boys. Nah, I told you. I put Black Boy in the title because I wanted to give respect to the ancestor that inspired me. His book was entitled Black Boy. Yeah, in this society, I'd be viewed as a Black boy or a Black man. So I wanted to honor the ancestor, but it's not just the work. It's a revolutionary manifesto. That's what that book is,
Mm-hmm.
literally.
Mm-hmm.
Read the book. You know what I'm saying? Let's wake our game up. And when people spend time with the text, especially young folks, it's a transformative experience. It really is. And I'm thankful that like Allah gave me the inspiration for it and then gave me the ability to actually move through it, put people around me that helped me get to the end of that. And
Right.
now we're talking about something that's been in existence since 2016 and is
Yeah.
still having an impact today. And then for me also the vision was I knew how powerful that text was. I
Mm-hmm.
knew it. I was like, let me make it easier for people to be able to take this book and bring it into any type of learning space that they want to create. And that was the reason why I created the curriculum. And the curriculum is transformative too. I got young people who they'll hit me up on social media. They'll be like, I was just in my class when we was doing the PCO curriculum, and it was the best lesson that we had all school year. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
come
Right.
on now,
Right.
it's going down. And that's just when people are interacting with the pieces that I've created, and they're just out there.
Right.
I'm right now, like you and I, we were talking before the live started. I'm at a middle school right now in San Jose. This is one of the middle schools that we do one of our programs at. On my shirt it says Building Leaders and Activists with Collective Knowledge because one of my programs is called Black, the Black program, Building Leaders and Activists with Collective Knowledge. So we do our program here at this school. We do our program at all the other middle schools in this school district here. And to my right over here,
Okay.
we're shooting a documentary.
Yeah.
The assistant superintendent is sitting down on a chair right now. She's in front of the camera. My videographer, my boy AM1, Aaron Miller, he's got the camera on her, got her mic'd up because we're documenting the process that this district has gone through. And I wouldn't say largely due to my influence, but definitely due to my influence being here and working with Black students in this district. And they created this anti hate speech contract that all students in their middle schools had to sign
Mm.
because Black kids was being bombarded and targeted on a daily basis with the N word and a whole bunch of other racial and offensive language and behavior. Like,
Mm.
y'all need to stand up and protect these kids. I'm here, I'm saying that. And you're going to see my face and I'm going to hold you accountable to do that. What you going to do? Okay, boom, boom, boom. They put the thing together. This is the first year that they put this into action. All these other school districts around here in the Bay, throughout the state of California, I'm sure wherever you are in other parts of this country as well,
Mm-hmm.
similar problems, and our young people are dealing with that.
Right.
We're creating a model for how something can be done. So it needs to be documented and it needs to be shared. So the book is one thing, the curriculum is something else, but real work needs to be done. And then, to add another degree to that, it's when, especially here where I'm at now, or not where I'm at now, where I'm at in the Bay, when stuff like this pops off, one of the first people that they look to or they call
Yeah.
is me.
Yeah.
Tyson, we need help. Can you come work with us on helping us diversify our curriculum? Can you come train our teachers so they ain't as racist in the classroom or whatever it might be? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the type of work that we can be doing. I'm one
Right.
person, fam.
Right.
Why isn't the mainstream US Muslim community having a presence like that all across the place where we got these masajid that are multi-million dollar constructions, and but the people don't feel you in the community? They what's your presence, fam? What's your presence for real folk, for
Right.
real work? Where's your presence at?
I
I'm
know.
one dude.
Uh,
That's what I'm saying. I'm over here doing what I feel needs to be done. Y'all can stay over there and do whatever that is that you're doing. Go ahead. No judgment, no hatred. I'm over here though.
right. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I think that, SubhanAllah, thank you for sharing that, by the way, because I don't know if most people knew that. And I know, let me know when you have to transition, because just FYI to my audience, as Tyson mentioned, he is on the move. He's like in the middle of several projects. So you may see a little bit of transition, but we're going to still rock out until we conclude this podcast. But, I don't think a lot of people knew about that part of your or know about that part of your work unless they really follow you or pay attention. But it's like you said, you're one person, you wrote a book, you developed it into a curriculum, and now it's influencing entire districts in an area. And this is things
Mhm.
that contribute to transformational change, working directly with our children, making it really like really impactful for us. So I think that that's, you know, subhanallah, is something that I feel like is really revolutionary. And I wish that we would really understand of how to take what we learn in Islam and really manifest it into very real, impactful work.
You
And
know what I learned in Islam
not
that
celebrating it.
that inspired me to do this for
Yeah.
real, for real? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam, he was referred to as Rahma ta'alamin, Rahma ta'alamin,
Mm,
mercy to the universe.
yep.
Simple.
Simple.
When that understanding was imparted to me, I was like, oh, so it ain't just Rahma to Ahl Kitab or the the practitioners of Al Islam. No, Rahma ta'alamin. Okay, okay. I get it. I get it for sure. So we out here. So everybody can get it. You feel me? Everybody can benefit from what we can contribute. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's the mission. That's the path. Yeah. Oh, right on. And I get it. Like there need to be spaces where, however, we identify ourselves based on a community, a culture, a tradition, and we can be in those spaces. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not hating on that. But in this context of the United States of America, imperial, colonial, racist reality, if all we're doing is staying in a comfortable space for us, whatever that is, and we ain't doing nothing about this other stuff that's going on, and
Right.
for me, the community that I come from, I can't afford to do that because it's an existential reality.
Mm.
Just being black in this place at any day, at any time, it could be a wrap, fam. So
Let me,
we out
let
here
me
doing
ask
what we
you,
can do for our people.
I feel you, Tyson. Let me ask you a question. It's a little bit off what we've been talking about. But what are some of the things, because honestly, you're on the ground and honestly, you're a black man. You're an African American man. What are some of the, I think, like setups and pitfalls you see systemically, in particular for black young men, as they're growing up in this wilderness called America, and you know they're in this system. What are some of those pitfalls? What are some of the ways that they just kind of
I get
like
it.
setup?
It's a great question, right? So I would strongly encourage, and this is no commercial type thing, right? But I would strongly encourage people, if they want to get more of that conversation, read my book, and
Hmm.
I'll send you a copy of my book. It ain't even like you need to buy it. I've sold more than enough copies of that book.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if folks want access to the book, I don't know if there's a way that they can hit you. Uh,
They
send
can't.
me send me, an email or tap in through social media somehow, some way, and send an address. I'll send you the book. But there's an extensive conversation about that in the text. But for the purpose of our discussion here, it's not anything new. I mean, there's some aspects of it that are new, but like for us, again, if we're just focusing on the origins of the United States, that goes back to 1607 Jamestown, 1619 our folks get here, but our people had been here before that. And then when we start talking about the imperial and the colonial epic, early 1500s,
Mm,
Portuguese begin stealing and trafficking our ancestors off of the west coast of the African continent in the 1430s. All right, Amy, great job. Thank you. No, no, we'll break down and then we'll head on out. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right on. AM1, he be doing this thing. Right on. Great job. And thank you for your leadership in the district. It's gonna be dope. Right on, y'all. So I'm back. We in the wilderness, I told you. So the the Portuguese 1440s going into the 1450s. So since that time, y'all, for
mhm,
real, like
mhm.
let's be realistic about it. And again, many of us are just not taught our history accurately. So
Right.
since that time, the pitfalls that you're describing, those systems and those institutions begin to build themselves up, which are responsible for those quote unquote pitfalls.
Mm.
And these systems have all been predicated on devaluing, dehumanizing our people, oppressing our people for the purpose of profit
Ooh.
off of our bodies and our lives, and dismantling our families, and then also fabricating these false narratives about who we are, and then restricting the space that we're supposed to occupy within their systems for Black life. And
Mm.
then when we begin to operate outside of those systems, we run into problems. And a
Yes.
lot of those problems have fatal consequences attached to them. I give the examples. A lot of us are probably familiar with this. When what's the dude's name? Cartwright, Samuel Cartwright or something like that. I don't know. I might be forgetting the name. But anyway, this is in the 19th century. So in the 1840s and the 1850s, you have a medical physician who is a therapist, and he coins the term drapetomania. And he describes this mania that Black people are supposed to be suffering from, right? And so he says Black people who are emancipating themselves or liberating themselves from forced enslavement, they're actually suffering from a mental illness, and that mental illness is called drapetomania.
Mm.
Because in the context of whiteness,
Right.
white people were doing us a favor by forcibly enslaving us. So we have to be outside of our minds to actually want to be free and to be liberated and emancipated and away from them. So when we start talking about the pitfalls and all of that type of stuff, like, we need to understand the reality of the society that we're in. I mean, just walking, just breathing, sleeping, waking up, trying to go to school, sitting down at a restaurant, kneeling while a national anthem is being played. Our entire existence has been criminalized. So, like, what? The pitfalls are everywhere, fam.
Mm.
You got money, you ain't got money. There's pitfalls for Black men, for Black boys, for Black women, for Black girls, for Black people who don't want to identify within a gender binary. Where? What pathway is a pathway that's going to work for us?
Mm.
Seriously. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm.
we got to be, if we're serious about who we are and where we are and what we should be doing in order to change those conditions, we going to work differently. But if we're comfortable with where we are and how we might want to see ourselves, we're going to be all right with this reality. I'm not comfortable. I'm not going to be comfortable. And that doesn't make me better than anybody else. I'm not saying that
Right.
to try to indicate that, but I'm not comfortable.
Yeah.
One of my students was murdered by SFPD on December 2nd, 2015. So we just, recognized, or
He was
you
murdered
can't,
by
you,
who? I'm sorry. He was murdered by.
San Francisco Police Department, SFPD. So December 2nd, 2023 was the 8th year of his passing, or of his murder. And his murder was captured on social media or on videos and spread throughout social media. Hashtag all of that. I mentioned the football player who had been kneeling during the national anthem, Colin Kaepernick. Some of y'all might be familiar with him. The reason why Colin Kaepernick began to do that protest was because of this brother that I knew, Mario Woods. So Mario Woods was killed by, it was about 7 or 8 San Francisco police officers. He was shot at more than 40 times. The majority of the shots were in his back. Cameras was out, spread all throughout. If y'all look up Mario Woods, you're going to see who I'm talking about. This was a dude that I had in one of my classes. I taught him in 2 of my math classes. I had him in a pre-algebra class that I taught, and I had him in an algebra class that I taught. And when I'm talking about it being existential, our existence, fam, is on the line. And in the Islamic context, we are told if one part of the ummah is dealing with an issue, then the entire community is sick or should be dealing with that issue. For me, for my community, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
When one member, and it's more than just Mario, we know a lot of folks that have, whether it's police violence, it's other systemic and institutional violence that is visited upon our people. I feel that, fam. And I know that I have a responsibility to do something.
Yeah.
And my faith also informs me to do that because I come from a faith tradition practiced by Black people in this context who understood this place in this time, and their faith informed them to be active and to do. But what these cats is on right now, I don't recognize them, fam. I don't. And again, you can do what you want to do over there. That's cool. That's why I'm over here doing this.
Yeah. SubhanAllah. Oh, that was heavy. Um, yeah, I appreciate that. I'm wondering though, you said that you wrote Black boy poems, and I know that it was inspired off another author, but I do know your work is for boys and girls. You work with young men and young women
It's for our people,
for
for
our
real.
people.
Yep.
And so, what are some of the ways, you know, that that you feel in your work, Black men and Black women can start to come together
That
and
right there
really
is
collectively
also.
this?
I got you. No, no, no. I'm ready for whatever we want to talk about. Right. That right there is also one of those colonial imperial myths that we've been force fed.
Okay.
So when we really look at our tradition accurately,
Mm.
the only way that we were able to survive is to work together for real. And when you see success in our historical tradition, you're going to see that. And it's not to romanticize the history at all. One of the greatest examples of our people fighting for our freedom and liberation is the Haitian Revolution, which is one of the things that these white folks never want to talk about and they never acknowledge.
Yeah.
1791 to 1804, Black men, Black women who were forcibly enslaved, Black folks who were also part of the quote unquote free portion of that society, fought for multiple years in order to liberate themselves. And they defeated the French, they defeated the Spanish, and they had to fight the British. And then the US intervened in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
We were successful because we did it together. Any major uprising or rebellion of our people throughout the first iteration of forced enslavement, moving into Jim Crow and all of that stuff, you're going to see collaboration between men and women in our society, and especially young people being involved in those movements.
But what
But
about the
we
overt
get,
attack on our families? But what about that you mentioned earlier? What about
oh
that
yeah,
attack
yeah,
on
no
families?
doubt. So I mean, even throughout all that, there was an attack on our families. So that's been a consistent reality. But I'm saying when we see, and I'm talking specifically about movements,
Okay.
when we see movements that have been effective in changing conditions that have impacted our community, you're going to see collaboration and cooperation between men and women in our community. So
Right.
when if we're talking about some of these contemporary realities that we have, again, I think that's one of those colonial, like there's these stereotypes that we have about Black people in the Black community that get broadcast everywhere all the time. I mean, look at our communities, fam. Like you talked about the brother Atiba out there in Atlanta, and big shout out to him and the Save Institute and what they're doing out there. There's a whole bunch of sisters that support that. I mean, my work, the reason why Black Boy Poems and the Black Boy Poems curriculum is where it is right now is because there are sisters that stand up for me.
Always. That's how it's
You
always.
feel me? I know that.
They
Even
don't get
even
recognized, but yeah.
even back in the days, you know what I'm saying, when I was doing more of my music stuff. And I think some of that, you say, oh boy, you're a little handsome or whatever. I can joke. I'm a funny dude too. You know, revolutionaries can be funny at the same time. But women supported our music. Brothers supported our music too, but the sisters supported our music in a completely different way. And like really helped spread that. Oh, my son needs to hear that. My nephew needs to hear this. Oh, you know what I'm saying? My husband, he need to hear this, whatever it might be, you know what I'm saying? And so it's the same thing with, I know the success of my work and the way that this has been able to expand has only been possible because of that collaboration between brothers and sisters. And so, yeah, there's a message that I think is broadcast to us a lot that we don't connect with each other,
Yeah.
or that there is this disconnect. But I think if we actually look critically at what we see happening within our communities, we'll see the opposite of that. But because we don't control mainstream media, we don't control any of these institutional ways that information is being broadcast to everybody, especially our community. That's an image that's put in front of us, but I don't think that's an image that's actually accurate when you begin to look at what's happening in the community. And not to romanticize it, there are places where we do have big division and fissures between brothers and sisters in the community. No doubt about that. But I think you can see a lot of other spaces where men and women, young folks, brothers and sisters actually do work together. And as a result, we're making progress in whatever agenda we have.
I agree with you 100%. And growing up in community, I've always seen any community thrive with the collaboration of men and women. I do see it. But I do also, I'm also aware that some of the things that kind of bog us down or keep us sort of stagnant and keep us out of the spaces where we're looking collectively at our history, or we're here where we're thinking about conscious, when we're thinking about movement and
Mm-hmm.
organizing, is some of the things that happens interpersonally, like right between us. And I do think that is something that, you know, it's not to say that that's our necessarily our narrative per se,
Mm-hmm.
like as a whole, but it is something that I am aware that is an issue, right? It does come up. Our interpersonal relationships have been under attack
Mm-hmm.
since we got here, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
attack on the black woman, then attack on the attack on the family. So I am curious though, like just, you know, if you could look at just this particular issue, what
Okay.
are some of the ways that can assist us with navigating, with coming out of that space where we're sort of dealing with these issues and not able to keep our families together, or not able to have good relationships with our kids, not all of us, but some of us,
Mm-hmm.
where we can come out and be educated and we can be involved in movement and we can be there with, you know, for the struggle. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I got you. We can always be involved in movement at any time, regardless of where we are or where we think we might be, like within our journey, especially like our political understanding and journey. We can always be involved. That's the reality. I get what you're saying. So I wanted to start though with what I said last time because I think that's important. We need to, and I think that's an important piece in this next piece. We got to decolonize the way that we see ourselves. And
Okay. Yeah.
a lot of this is my understanding, and I think it's a very important question to ask ourselves. And so, folks who are listening, it could be more of a rhetorical exercise right now, but I think it'll be good for you to think about it.
Mm,
How often do you learn about our people and our experience from us, like from
mm,
Black folks? Or is the majority of the information that you get about Black people coming from other sources, especially other sources that have been created by or endorsed by an imperial, racist, white supremacist reality? I don't know. I think that's an important question to look at because that does have an impact. And then there are the other realities of who we are and what we get from our family, what we get from our community, what we get from those who are around us. I have this conversation a lot, and I love my family. I love what my family has given to me and has modeled for me. But okay, on both sides of my family, on my father's side and on my mother's side, I got a whole bunch of cousins, right? For the majority of them, I don't know any of their fathers. I
mm,
don't.
mhm,
And
mhm.
I don't know if that's a common or an
The thing.
uncommon reality within the Black experience. I don't know.
I mean, I
But
have a
for
shared
real,
experience. It's the same thing for me. I don't know their
yeah,
fathers. Yeah.
it's it's rare. And then like when I finally did start to get to meet, not know, get to meet some of their fathers, we was much older in life. And yeah, some of them I don't think I ever seen their fathers before. These are my first cousins. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so these are cats who, if social, political, family, cultural realities were a little bit different, they would have been present in the lives of my cousins as well as possibly present in my life. So for some of us, that's a reality, but that reality does not have to define who we are.
Agree.
But I think part of that is also going back to that first question I was asking: how often do we get to see us through our lens and not a lens that has been amplified by racism, bigotry, prejudice, and profiting off of the oppression of our people? I don't know. And I know that does have an impact. I don't think that's the whole story, but it has an impact. And then there's the reality that, and this is also part of the reason why I feel I stand so firmly where I stand. I think we can't be well as a people unless we're fighting to destroy these realities that are destroying this world that we live in. And so I feel we have to be involved in that type of fight, which can inform us and empower us, and then can also enrich any relationship that we have, especially a relationship with a partner. And then I'll be I'll be on this too and be very honest about how I've rationalized certain behaviors within the Islamic framework before. Like I've had moments in time where, like, I was married for a minute, and that's something that is documented in my musical history. And the sister that I was married to, we ended up getting divorced. And then we remarried, and then we ended up getting divorced again. And there were some very real reasons for that. And none of it was on some, like, there were foundational errors in our relationship. There were just some things that happened, and it was a wild situation. But anyway, after that, I was depressed for a long time, and I didn't know. I really didn't know how to deal with that. I don't even think I understood that that's what I was dealing with. And
Mm.
in those moments, it lasted for a couple of years. Not all of this behavior lasted for a couple of years, but I had multiple relationships with women, and I had multiple relationships with women at the same time, and I did some things that were very problematic and
Mm.
questionable.
Yeah.
And I can recognize that clearly now. And some of that was due to the fact that, like, I had suffered this major spiritual, physical, psychological injury that I did not give myself time to heal from properly. And then some of it was toxic
Yeah.
masculine behavior and just other things that I had access to because, I had a name and folks knew me and whatever it might be, right? And, I took advantage of some of that stuff when I wasn't at my best. And that's not an excuse, but it's the reality of that moment and of that time. And then, building from that and healing from that
Mm.
allowed me to get back to a place where I was like, oh, wait, hold up. I was off. I was way off. Let me get back to a center. Let me start building myself back up again. And I did. And it took time, right? But I move a very specific way when it comes to relationship. I'm married. I have a wife. I'm very proud of that. And not on some ego stuff. In this community work, I know because of the community that I come from, and some dudes who listening to this, they might feel some type of way about it. I know who I am and I know what my mission is and I know what I need to do in my work. If I was out here on some, I'm gonna be operating with multiple relationships at the same time publicly, I ain't gonna be able to have the impact that I need to have in this community. I know
Mm.
that, fam.
Oh.
With black folks,
Okay.
with my aunties, with grandmas and sister this and that, and I ain't talking about like just Muslim women.
No, I hear you.
They ain't gonna understand me. They ain't gonna want to have their sons or their daughters rocking with me, and that's
Right.
not a problem with having multiple legal relationships. It's not. I'm not
Right. I
saying
know
that's
what
the
you're saying.
wrong thing or
Yeah.
that's problematic, but I
Right.
know me because of who I am and how I show up in community and what people see from me. I need to have one partner that I can hold down and that's holding me down. And then also for me, it's busy, fam. The work is busy. If I had another partner, that's a whole bunch of energy that's going over here. I got a whole bunch of energy going on. I ain't got time for that. I ain't got the energy for that. You feel me?
Mm.
Because I got a goal that I'm working on with the time that I have in my life and the energy that I have in my life with how much time I got. But I knew what it was like when I was off,
Ooh.
when I hadn't healed from certain traumas and experiences and how that showed up in the way that I moved and how that showed up in my relationships with people, especially my relationships with women. And I'm also thankful for the fact that I've been able to make amends with every single woman that I had those relationships with.
Yeah.
And thankfully, they've forgiven me and they recognize and all that. And we're cool and we've been able to move on and, build and do some other things together. But I see that, I recognize that. And then I also recognize what I got from my community, what I got from my family. None of that stuff has to define us, but we have to be able to process and learn and continue to learn as we move through it. And so some of that is very real and it shows up in us as individuals and it shows up in us in our relationships. And ain't none of us perfect and ain't none of us ever gonna be perfect. You know what I'm saying? But we need to have spaces where we can have those conversations. And for me, as somebody who I was one of them cats that people saw on stages and I received some extra attention as a result of that. It's easy to weaponize that and to transgress. It can be easy to do that if we're not grounded in who we are and what we're here to do. It makes it much easier to transgress if you ain't got the skills or the people around you who can help you do that properly. We don't need to be out here doing relationships improperly. We don't, because that's going to cause more problems for us as individuals and in our communities. We don't need to be out here doing that, fam. We don't need to be playing with the game. If you're going to do it right.
Or don't do
Get
it.
some help to do it right if you're going to do that, or don't do it for real. Because we don't need to be out here like that. And I'm somebody who I did it wrong. And inshallah, I'm doing it right. And I did it right before. And I'm going to try to continue to do it right. But I know for me, to do the work that I'm doing in community, which is important to me. I gotta have my partner. She hold me down, I hold her down, and we do that. And I also know that if I had more than one partner, again, this is not saying that's not the right thing for folks to do. But I know when I pull up in these communities and folks, wait, you got two wives, you got three wives, what? I don't know about you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not wrong, but I know how that will be read in my community. I'm cool. Let me do what I need to do and let me show up how I'm gonna show up because I want to have this impact. And for somebody else, that might be your way. Right on, bro. Do it right. Or right on, sisters. Do that right. Cool. But I know for me, how I'm seen, how I show up, and what I want to do, this is what's best for me. And these are the principles that I'm going to stand on. And I think brothers who come from a similar experience as me, y'all got to reconcile that. Who are you going to be? And if you're going to be this other thing, you need to do it right. And if that ain't the right thing for you, you need to fall back and you need to learn how to do this right because we can't be out here doing these relationships improperly. And that's not just a thing for brothers, that's a thing for sisters as well. And we got to understand relationship from the perspective of our community, not from this outside imperial white
Thank you.
supremacist, all this other stuff. But I
Thank
don't
you.
know how many of us get that. And I
Right.
don't know where we get that from, but I'm
And I
doing
don't
my
know if we
best to
can,
be on that page.
yeah, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I don't know if we can differentiate between what is the historical practice of our people when it comes to relationship versus what are some of these colonized sort of thoughts and ideals
Mm-hmm.
around relationships
Yeah.
that's got us all jacked up. But I do want to just say, Tyson, like I mean, I don't even have many much words for what you just shared because you dropped a whole
I,
thing. You gave us
I,
the
I
whole
talk
crux.
a lot. My bad.
No,
You
like
gotta
you
forgive me.
gave, no,
I
I
really
really want to
do.
say this. You gave something that I feel like we all really needed to hear because what this culminating point of this surviving the wilderness is like, what are you going to stand on? And I think by you sharing that experience, that I think many of us can relate to because like sometimes we repeat what we saw and we repeat what, like I said, you said you didn't know any fathers of cousins. I didn't know any fathers of cousins. And I also didn't know my grandfathers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, this generational sort of theme of fathers being outside of the home. And that was due to, very, very violent systemic targeting and reasons. But like you begin to repeat patterns, even as a Black woman. It's like, you repeat patterns you don't know. You think you have this ideal of how to show up and be a wife, but it's like, once you get up in there, you fumble around and then you try to figure out, and then you
Mm-hmm.
got to heal that stuff. And in our community, there's not a lot of support or resources of how you get back up, but then you got to identify like what are you going to stand on. And I think
Definitely.
that's what our people need is like, what are our principles,
Yeah,
right? Because
we
that
need that.
means something. When you say that to a Black person, that means something to us.
Hmm.
When you talk about like standing on something, and
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
that's what we need to heal some of that. So I really appreciate that.
I don't know. I appreciate that too. And one thing that I'll add to it, because I don't want folks to think that by me saying I didn't know any of the fathers of my cousins, that I'm playing into that stereotype of, Black fathers are not present. That's another thing that we got to read differently, because when we actually get into what it looks like in a lot of our communities, yeah, we got families that have been broken up for a number of reasons. But statistically speaking, Black fathers are some of the most present in the lives of their children. So
Right.
we always got to check that, where something might align with one of these racist stereotypes of our people, especially if it's not true. In my family experience, and that's not me saying that it was true and it was a problem, but I didn't see them. I didn't know them for whatever reason. They
Yeah.
wasn't present. I'm saying, and that was just that reality. But that doesn't mean that Black fathers are not present in the lives of their kids. You know what I'm saying? But yes, there's a lot of stuff that's been modeled for us. That doesn't have to define us.
It doesn't
But
have to.
then we have to have some other way to learn something else that we're going to substitute that experience with. And
Can I
it
just
takes
ask a
time.
question though, by what you said, just really quickly, because I know we have to wrap up. But can
Okay.
you
All
just
right.
tell
And I'm
me?
gonna I'm gonna start being on the
You got to
move
go.
too.
Yeah, we're this is like my
But that
closing.
doesn't mean that I gotta dip out. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can continue the conversation, but y'all gonna see me in traffic a little bit, walking. So
No,
I
we're
hope nobody
wrapping
gets
up.
motion sickness. Okay, cool, cool.
We're wrapping up. But my question
All
for
right.
you is how would you recommend someone getting to that point that you got to when you had to decide what you were going to stand on and for the purpose of doing it? Like when you decided, okay, I need a partner, I need to rock this thing out for my people. This is how I'm going to do it, and this is what I'm standing on. For a person who's kind of trying to figure that all out, what
Mm-hmm.
would be some practical ways that they could get there if they weren't there, if they're not there?
Holler at some cats that really on their business, or on their game like that. But for me, right, this is so, aside from what I saw in my family, which is very real, these were the principles that I was raised upon. Seriously. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So the departure that I was talking about after the divorces, that was like an interruption in my understanding and my practice of my principles.
I see.
So it was simply a coming back to, because there was a major thing happened, which threw all of that off from me for a minute, and it took a while for me to come all the way back. Um, but I'm thankful that my community gave me those principles. And so, like, what I'm saying, when I was releasing some of the early music that some folks might be familiar with, the first project that I dropped on Remarkable Current, which was a Muslim record company. My boy Ennis Cannon is the founder of that and produced the majority of that music. He and I still rock and we do our thing. I mean, he sent me a clip of some music that he made for me earlier today. You know what I'm saying? Like, so make no mistake, we still out here doing our thing. That was in 2002. My principles were in that music because that was the life that I had lived and I was living. In my first solo album, Ghetto Messiah, the reason why I called that Ghetto Messiah is because of the COINTELPRO memo from March 4th, 1968, where J. Edgar Hoover is talking about prevent the rise of a Messiah who can unify and electrify the militant Black masses. That's the reason why we called it Ghetto Messiah. Prevent the coalition of Black nationalist groups, because in unity there is strength. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was raised on these principles. This is me. Divorce was a major injury, fam.
I
I
see.
didn't recognize how much of an injury it was, and I fell back a little bit. I lost some of who I was, literally. And
And do men tend to more so like act out when they're kind of hurt and depressed? Because it seemed like that you kind of act out a little bit.
people act out when they're
Oh.
hurt and depressed. It's not a gendered reality.
No, I
Um,
understand. I'm just
no,
asking
no,
about
I
your
got you.
experience.
No, I feel you. So I can speak about myself personally, but as a person, being hurt, being depressed, whatever else it might be, yeah, you're gonna start acting different. You
Mm-hmm.
really are. And that happened to me. That was definitely a part of my experience. And it it took time. It really took time. And I'm still working through whatever it is that I'm working through, and it's all good. But I'm on my principles though. I'm on my game. I'm on myself. I'm in my purpose, and I'm moving that way. And I think, as you were talking about, if it's advice for young brothers, for men, for older brothers, for sisters, whoever, like, we need to be around people who they're on their principles. Like, it's clear in the way that they move, so we can learn from that example. And then we need to be people of principle. We need to know what our principles are. So Islam is definitely a part of that. Our community and our culture is a part of that. And some of the fight that we have, or some of our folks have, which is like feeling like we can't authentically be black or be who we are, like that ain't true. No. Like, some of that is what helps us be grounded in our principles and to stand all the way up on what we need to be standing on. So give me a second. There's some people outside this door. I'm gonna mute the mic real quick. And I'm kind of in shadow, but I'm listening.
Okay.
Hold up.
All right. We're coming to an end to the audience when we're gonna bid Tyson farewell, but we do definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. This was a really layered conversation in many ways. MashaAllah. We have a lot to unpack with this, but we definitely appreciate you guys tuning in for episode 3 of the Dope Muslim Woman podcast, which is Surviving the Wilderness, Surviving the Wild Wild West. And inshallah, we're coming back next week. We'll drop that podcast very soon, but we do have a really special guest, inshallah. But for our brother Tyson, are you back?
Yeah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. I just want to thank you, bro. This was excellent. This was dope. I appreciate you for dropping that knowledge. Like I said, it was really layered. I feel like I need some time to unpack of everything that was said.
We could
But
do a part 2 if you want. You know what I'm saying? Let me know. I'm
I mean, you
around.
got deep at the end, and I have a lot of questions, but mashallah, we have to wrap up. But I definitely appreciate you, brother, and mashallah, thank you for the work that you do. We want everybody to support this work. Like he said, that he's willing to actually give the book for free.
Oh,
Black
let me let
Cross.
me get let me give a shout out to my homeboy right here.
Okay.
This is my folks, AM1. He's a cat who's my videographer. So when we was talking about the documentary, this is the brother who was shooting the documentary.
Okay, awesome. He does all your videos. Does he do all your videos?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's my guy right here. And so make sure you share that information, that link that I created for folks, so they can see some of the educational resources, some of the video content. They'll see work that Aaron put in. They'll see some of the other stuff too. Like, we do it for the people.
I will. So we have a variety of resources to share with you guys. I'm going to put it all in the chat. Please tap into Tyson Amir and what he's doing. Don't forget about his book, Black Boy Poems. And
Yeah,
is there?
and you ain't gotta buy the book, on for real, y'all. Like, if you want the book, just hit us up, send me your information. I'll send the book out to you. All right, don't trip. I've sold enough copies of that book, and I wrote this for our people. So money ain't gonna be no obstacle, and I get it. If you want to be like, oh, we want to invest in you, right on. You can support one of these programs. You ain't gotta buy the book. You know what I'm saying? So we can have that conversation too. But please understand, like, everything that I do, the principles that I stand on, this is for our people. If you want it, you need it, you want to bring it to your community, fam, just talk. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. That's what
Okay.
this is about. And this is why I'm over here, and some of these other cats is doing some other stuff. Right on for them. More power to them. This is what we doing.
Oh, sorry. We lost connection. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So people are saying that they want the book, so they can reach out. Either you guys can reach out to me, or you can actually directly hit Tyson up on his social media pages, right? Is that the best way?
It's perfectly fine. Or if you want, I can give them an email
Okay,
address.
give it to me and I'll type it in. Can you say it out loud? Spell it out.
First name Tyson, Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
And then my company at FSMEI.org. Tyson at FSMEI.org. Shoot the emails over, y'all. Put your address in there. Put how many copies you want. I'll slide some things over to you.
All right. You guys heard it first here on the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. So take advantage of that. And again, brother, thank you so much. I pray that Allah blesses you and blesses your work. We appreciate you.
I mean, وأنتم كذلك. And then I'll also add this too. Like, yo, I ain't been gone. I've been busy.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I ain't
For
been gone.
clarifying.
I've been busy. So we working, and I'm here with anybody who wants to get some work in. So let's do it.
Okay. All right. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Brother Tyson. All right.
Right
Until
on.
next time.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. See you guys next
Hey,
week.
consider. All right.